to Spirit Lounge, everyone. Hope you guys are doing really well and enjoying your weekend and the start of it. Today we're going to progress into the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we're going to go into the hymns and poems. It's quite a long section, a lot of hymns and poem extracts that I pulled out from the book, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So let me just add one. A second. Okay, here we go. All right, so I just added some sounds of background music on this, which should have been playing already, but it hasn't been playing, but it's fine. Bear with me a moment, and okay, there we go. All right, we're going to put the presentation onto the screen now, so we can get straight into it. Okay, so the Dead Sea Scrolls. Here we go. So hymns and poems. Again, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in 1947 in the Judean desert in a cave, again by a young Arab shepherd in Qumran, a place called Qumran, where the Essenes had a sect called the Essenes, which separated them from the mass of the Judaic peoples, and saw themselves as being the right and the correct way of practicing Judaism in a much more strict way. It was a monastic community who actually lived in a separate community of their own called the Essenes, and these Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the Qumran caves nearby when the Romans were sacking the community during the First Revolt. And the book I'm using is the Giza Vermes book, which is actually very good. It has some really good footnotes in there, so if you are looking to buy one, maybe have a look at that in the library or a bookshop before you buy it. See if it's something that resonates with you. But I found it useful for me as well. The author was very knowledgeable and had a lot of subtext. Okay, this book, this section contains a lot of hymns in different sections, and the first section we're going into is the Thanksgiving hymns. And I only pulled a few out, and even sections of some of the hymns which were very, very long. I'm going to be going through the ones that resonated with me. So hopefully you find them useful. Excuse me. Okay. The hymn scroll, it was published by E.L. Sekunik in 1954, the Dead Sea Scrolls of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. So this was a translation from the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found. I give thee thanks because of the spirits which thou hast given me, to recount thy righteousness deeds, and the forbearance, and the works of thy mighty right hand. See, the mighty right hand for me is the works of the Spirit from within you. There's no actual physical deity performing itself and imposing itself on the world. It is really what it's waiting, as I've said many times, waiting for us to go to it. So the right hand is our soul moving into the Spirit and then performing action, word, thoughts, and intentions of a right hand in this world. And the pardon of the sins of the forefathers. I will bow down and implore thy mercy on my sins and wicked deeds, and on the perversity of my heart. Well, the sins and wicked deeds and perversity of the heart, what is this? Well, this is not to implore mercy. This is for us to move away from. So when we move to our soul into the light, which is the spiritual force, which is the breath of the Father, we are looking to remove our mind from perversity, sins, and wicked deeds, and do the opposite of those. For I have wallowed in uncleanness. These are the thoughts, action, word, thoughts, and intentions that are not of grace to those that you are seeking to be of grace. And have turned aside from the counsel of thy truth. Thy truth, what is that? Well, that is what the gnosis of the book, if you like. That comes from when the soul's moving towards and closer towards the Spirit. And I have not laboured, for thine is righteousness. And an everlasting blessing be upon thy name. According thy servant be redeemed, and the wicked be brought to an end. The wicked is brought to an end as we bring ourselves, our own perversity, duality within ourselves to an end. And only then can others become others who turn to light, brought their I would say wicked. The wicked is in terms of the Essenes and the texts of those times, or anyone who didn't believe in the texts that the Essenes believed. So if you weren't an Essene, you were deemed as the lost, or the dark, or the sinful, or those of Belial. That's what the Essenes thought. In any sect or religious group in those times, even the times of today, there are very many who would feel that if you don't believe what they believe, follow the religion that they believe they follow, or pray and give solace in the same institution or building that they do, then you are a heathen. So nothing has really changed in humanity. What this is really for me saying is change it within yourself. The church is within you. The wicked deeds are the duality within you. And all of that, the truth and righteousness unveils itself within you when you move closer to Spirit. Hymn 3 in the same section. All these things thou didst establish in thy wisdom. As I said, wisdom, knowledge, and gnosis is the path to enlightenment and ascension. It's ascension of soul into greater knowledge. Thou didst appoint all thy works before ever creating them. The host of thy spirit and the congregation of thy holy ones, the heavens and all their hosts, and the earth and all it brings forth, in the seas and the deeps, and an everlasting task. For thou hast established them from before eternity. So I like the everlasting task. It is an everlasting task. They move to what we call enlightenment. Enlightenment is unveiling of gnosis. It's an everlasting, it's an infinite task. It's an infinite journey back to grace. That journey can take thousands and thousands of lifetimes even, or years, upon whichever material plane wish to experience that. And in the seas and in the deeps, well, that's in everywhere, in everything, animate and inanimate object. And the work of, and they shall recount the glory throughout all thy dominion. For thou hast shown them that, which they had not seen by removing all ancient things. These were the ideology, or the idol worship that they had around the temples and churches. And creating new ones. But what is the spirit of flesh? That it should understand all this, and that it should comprehend the great design of thy wisdom. What does that mean? Well, it means that within the body, there's only so much. Gnosis, as I mentioned, enlightenment, it goes on for an eternity. Within the body, we will to release ourselves from physical manifestation, i.e. the bodily manifestation, the cycle of rebirth, as the Vedic would say, is to achieve a certain level of gnosis. For within the body, within the coarseness of the body, and the expression that it can allow, the mind can allow, the humanness can allow, has a limitation. For thy in flesh, the spirit of flesh, how could it comprehend the entirety of the great design and thy wisdom? But it cannot. That goes on beyond body. By thy goodness alone is man righteous. And that means that goodness alone, that is gnosis, that is unveiling enlightenment from within. And with thy many mercies, thou strengthened him. Thou will adorn him to reign and many delights, with everlasting peace and length of days, for thou wilt not take back thy word. When thy word is within you, when the word has been released from within you, whatever that word is for you, because it is always, it's going to be the same truth for all of us in the end. It's interpreted by the soul and the spirit the same way. It cannot be taken back. Once you've seen something, you cannot unsee it. Once you hear something, you cannot unhear it. Once you feel something, you cannot unfeel it. So this is how the word cannot be taken back. Once the unveiling has progressed, then it's permanent. Hymn 4. Bear with me a second. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hast given understanding to the heart of thy servant. This is gnosis, that he may understand all these things and loathe all that thou hatest. So remember, the Father doesn't hate anything. This is a text of its time. Thou shalt instruct thy servant, spirit of man, for thou hast cast their lot according to their spirits, between good and evil to accomplish their task. And I know through the understanding which comes from thee, that in thy good will towards man, thou hast increased his inheritance in thy Holy Spirit. Well, increasing inheritance is increasing your gnosis, increasing your movement towards spirit. Screaming and drinking tea at the same time. And this thou hast drawn me near to understanding of thee. Gnosis again. And the closer I approach, gnosis, speech, prayer, meditation, silence, to receive, prayer, to speak. The more I am filled with zeal against all the workers of iniquity and the men of deceit. Remember, the Essenes in this case thought anyone outside the community were the workers of iniquity. Even the Jewish community outside of the walls of the community of the Essenes, in the Qumran settlement, if you like, were seen as not following Judaic law of Moses correctly. For none of those who approach thee rebels against thy command, nor do any of those who know thee alter thy words, for thou art righteousness, and all thine elect are truth. Thou wilt blot out all injustice and wickedness forever. Well, only unveiling, moving our soul to spirit, is injustice and wickedness blotted out. It's blotted out from, like I mentioned, between us first, and all those who then awaken to that journey and realize that is the ultimate path. And thy righteousness shall be revealed. Before the eyes of thy creatures, I will cause each man to draw near in accordance in his understanding. And according to the greatness of his inheritance, so will I love him. So what's the greatness of inheritance? The inheritance is really the path towards grace, the narrow channel where you see Father before you. That is the inheritance. I will not honour an evil man, nor consider the bribes of shame. Okay, and it continues. Seems to be a duplicate here. Okay, I'll leave the bottom passage of this because I think it's a duplicate. For none of those who approach thee rebels against thy command, nor do any of those who know thee alter thy words. For thou art righteousness, and all thine elect are truth. Thou wilt blot out injustice and wickedness forever, and thy righteousness shall be revealed before the eyes of all creatures. I will cause each man to draw near in accordance with his understanding, and according to the greatness of his inheritance, so will I love him. Hymn number 5. I thank thee, O Lord, as benefits the greatness of thy power and the multitude of thy marvels for ever and ever. And I have loved thee freely and with all my heart, contemplating the mysteries of thy wisdom. This is something that you feel all the time. When your conversation is with grace and your communion is with grace and you move into grace a little bit every day, this is where you feel loved freely and that you are loved with all your heart freely. This is where peace and contentment truly reigns. It does for me. Within the material world, it's not really there. But within the silence of the heart and the silence of the soul, and when we go towards grace in our peace time, in our quiet times, in our meditative times, this is where we are receiving the mysteries of wisdom. And we're truly loving freely, and we feel the grace, the love of grace course through us. I have sought thee, for this is from thy hand, and nothing is done without thy will. I love thee freely. I love thee freely, and with all my heart and soul I have purified. I might not turn aside from any of thy commands. I have clung to the congregation. That I might not be separated from any of thy laws, I know through the understanding which comes from thee, that righteousness is not in the hand of flesh. No, it's not. Righteousness is in the hand of gnosis, or going towards the light. I know that the inclination of every spirit is in thy hand, thou didst establish all its ways before ever creating it, and enlarge his straitened soul to eternal salvation. So that means straitened soul is one that moves towards the spiritual light, the breath of the Father, which is the Spirit, the eternal Spirit, the perpetual and unfailing peace, the Spirit. Thou wilt raise up his glory from among flesh. But the wicked thou didst create, they have despised the covenant, and their souls have loathed thy truth. They have taken no delight in all their commandments, and have chosen that which thou hatest. It is thou who didst shape the Spirit, and establish its works from the beginning, i.e. its calling to us from the beginning. It animates us. The Spirit is what animates us. The way of all the living proceeds from thee. I know that no riches equal thy truth, and have therefore desired to enter the counsel of thy holiness. I will seek thy spirit of knowledge, cleaving to thy spirit of holiness. I will hold fast to the truth of thy covenant. So we can suggest we can replace covenant with gnosis and the law and the awareness and perception that comes from gnosis as we move into the narrow channel towards grace itself. It unveils the real true covenant, which is an energetic one interpreted by oneself, one's soul, one's heart. Because the Spirit is what you're moving towards. That is the covenant, the Spirit. And it continues, that I may serve thee in truth and the wholeness of heart, and that I may love thy name. Blessed art thou, O Lord, maker of all things and mighty in deeds. All things are thy work. By the Spirit which thou hast given me to perfect thy favours unto thy servant forever. Purifying me of thy Holy Spirit, by thy Holy Spirit, and drawing me near to thee by thy grace, according to the abundance of thy mercies. Grant me the place of thy loving kindness, which thou hast chosen for them that love thee, and keep thy commandments, that they may stand in thy presence forever. I know, O Lord, that thou art merciful and compassionate, long-suffering and rich in grace and truth, pardoning, transgressing, and sin. Okay, hymn 6. Thou art long-suffering in thy judgments, and righteous in all thy deeds. By thy wisdom all things exist from eternity, and before creating them thou knewest their works. Forever and ever nothing is done without thee, and nothing is known unless thou desire it. Thou hast created all the spirits, and hast established a statute and law. Thou hast fashioned all their inhabitants according to thy wisdom, and hast appointed all that is in them. According to thy will, by thy mercies and by thy great goodness, thou hast strengthened the spirit of man. In the face of the scourge being, it could either be the scourge of those who don't believe in what the Essenes believed, or those Gentiles, if you like, or the scourge outside of the walls, and has purified the erring spirit of the multitude of sins. Hear, O all you wise men, and meditate on knowledge. Increase in prudence, O all you simple. Hold fast to the covenant, O all you perfect of way, O all you afflicted with misery. Upon my uncircumcised lips thou hast laid a reply. Thou hast upheld my soul, strengthening my loins and restoring my power. My foot has stood in the realm of ungodliness. I have been a snare to those who rebel, but healing to those of whom who repent. Prudence to the simple, and steadfastness to the fearful of heart. They have cast towards the pit the life of man, whose mouth thou hast confirmed, and into those heart thou hast put teaching and understanding, that he might open a fountain of knowledge. Again, as we were saying, it's gnosis, it's always gnosis that moves us towards grace, the fountain of knowledge. To all men to build insight, to all men of insight. They have exchanged, this is a psychical insight that comes from gnosis, the moving towards grace opens up psychical pattern. They have exchanged them for lips of uncircumcision, and for the foreign tongue, of a people without understanding, that they might come to ruin in their straying. So this is really anyone in the Essenes belief. There's no ruin in a people straying, there is just a longer time period before they ultimately turn to the single truth, whatever we see it, however we see it, but we do move to a single truth. There's many paths to that truth, but we do all move to that single truth eventually. Hymn 7. Excuse me. I thank thee, O Lord, for thou hast placed my soul in the bundle of the living, and hast hedged me about, against all the snares of the pit. Violent men have sought after my life, because I have clung to thy covenant. For they, an assembly of deceit, and a horde of Belial, know not that my stand is maintained by thee. So you do have a strength, a humility that you go into the world when you do follow the spiritual path. But it's a humility, it's not a cowering humility. This is not a weak humility. It's a humility that is strengthened by an absolute force, a steel rod running through the spine of understanding, knowing, gnosis of force. This is what is maintained by thee. It's maintained by the spiritual force within. But it's not a violent, aggressive force. It is a confident, assertive force. It's a very much stronger force, and unbreakable. Hymn 8. Because they knew not that my steps were directed by thee, they made me an object of shame and derision, in the mouth of all the seekers and falsehood. But thou, O my God, hast succored. This means helped. The soul of the poor and the needy, against one stronger than he. Thou hast redeemed my soul from the hand of the mighty. Thou hast not permitted their insults to dismay me, so that I forsook thy service, for fear of the wickedness of the ungodly, or bartered my steadfast heart for folly. Hymn 10. I thank thee, O Lord, for thou hast redeemed my soul from the pit, and from the hell of Abaddon. Thou hast raised me up to everlasting height. I walk on limitless level ground, and I know there is hope for him. Him whom thou hast shaped from dust, for the everlasting counsel. Thou hast cleansed a perverse spirit of great sin, that it may stand with the host of the holy ones, and that it may enter into community. With the congregation of the sons of heaven, thou hast allotted to man an everlasting destiny. Amidst the spirit of knowledge, that he may praise thy name in a common rejoicing. The torrents of Belial shall reach to all sides of the world. In all their channels, a consuming fire shall destroy every tree, green and barren on their banks, unto the end of their courses. It shall scourge with flames of fire, and shall consume the foundations of the earth, and the expanse of dry land, and the bases of the mountains shall blaze, and the roots of the rock shall turn to torrents of pitch. It shall devour as far as the abyss, great abyss. The torrents of Belial shall break into Abaddon, a place of destruction is Abaddon, and the deeps of the abyss shall groan. Amid the roar of heaving mud, the land shall cry out because of the calamity fallen upon the world, and all its deeps shall howl, and all those upon it shall rave, and shall perish amid the great misfortune. For God shall sound his mighty voice, and his holy abode shall thunder with the truth of his glory. The heavenly host shall cry out, and the world's fountains shall stagger and sway. The war of the heavenly warriors shall scourge the earth, and it shall not end before the appointed destruction. We shall be forever without compare. To hymn 11. I thank thee, O Lord, for thou art as a fortified wall to me, as we mentioned, the spiritual gnosis becoming that rod of steel. See, and as an iron bar against all destroyers in the spine, I would say. Thou hast set my feet upon rock, that I may walk in the way of eternity, in the path which thou hast chosen. Hymn 12. I seek thee, and sure as the dawn, thou appearest as perfect light to me. Teachers of lies have smoothed thy people with words, and the false prophets have led them astray. They perish without understanding, for their works are in folly. for I am despised by them, and they have to esteem for me, that thou mayest manifest thy might through me. They have banished me from my land like a bird from its nest. All my friends and brethren are driven far from me. In the modern world, if you take this in context of the modern world, as you move in your spiritual gnosis, your friends will not banish you, but you'll start to find that if they're not moving into the same path and they're staying within the wanderings of the middle, you'll move away from them more and more into more private time, into more times of contemplation, into more times of involution and evolution from within. Studying, praying, meditating, and spending more time with your own thoughts and gnosis that unveils itself from you. So in this way, your friends are not driven away from you. You kind of you move away from them, but you don't stop remaining friends and see each other and have fun. But the time you spend with people lessens that are not of the same vibration in which you're moving to. This will occur. For many of you, it probably already is. And hold me for a broken vessel, but thou, O God, dost despise all Belial's designs. Thy purpose that shall be done, and the design of thy heart that shall be established forever. As for them, they dissemble. They plan, well, as for them, they dissemble. Well, those who are lost in this world, what do they seek to do? They seek to destroy and recreate into their own image over and over and over again. They seek to destroy every 100 years and recreate the world into a new image that they've created in the preceding 100 years. Order ab chaos, as they say, and they just seek to destroy and always have more control, more wealth, more greed, more oppression, more suppression. Lessening the ability for humanity to express. So they just constantly are in a constant rotation of dissemblement. Dissembling that which is true, dissembling that which is goodness of experience. And that is what's happening recursively over the dawn of time of man. Of humanity will go on like this. It's not going to end. As the yugas go round and round in circles from golden ages to darkened ages and back to golden ages, it goes round and round and round. These are ages of man, so that where in some ages darkness is lessened, in others it is strengthened and given power. But it's for us to recognize that, and its forces becomes less and less as we move into light. But those who wish to dissemble will always dissemble, no matter which yuga we are in, no matter which time we were in. Those who wish to dissemble will always be between us and around us and among us. They plan devilish schemes, they seek thee with a double heart, and are confirmed in thy truth. Yeah, many of those who dissemble will pretend to be of divine or spiritual nature. They'll go to the temples and sing mosques and hidden and other places of worship, when actually they do it with double hearts. They do it knowing that they have no belief, and then they do their real rituals in their real places of darkness and spit in the face of that which they pretend to be. For they hearken not to thy voice. Exactly, that is true. Nor do they give ear to thy word, they pretend. Of the vision of thy knowledge, they say, it is unsure. And of the way of thy heart, it is not the way. But thou, O God, wilt reply to them, chastising them in thy might, because of their idols, and because of the multitude of their sins. But those who please thee shall stand before thee forever. Those who walk in the way of thy heart shall be established forevermore. Thou hast revealed thyself to me in thy power, as perfect light. Thou hast not covered my face with shame. All those who gathered in thy covenant, for I remember my sins, and the unfaithfulness of my fathers, when the wicked rose against thy covenant, and the damned against thy word. I lean on thy grace, and on the multitude of thy mercies, for thou wilt pardon iniquity, and through thy righteousness thou wilt purify man of his sin. Not for his sake wilt thou do it, but for the sake of thy glory. Well, the sake of the Spirit, not necessarily the glory of the Father. But thou hast created the just and the wicked. Well, we created the just and the wicked through possibility and probability and inevitability of that. There's always choice, and this is where the soul chooses. Hymn 13. I thank thee, O Lord, for thou hast abandoned me. Whilst I sojourned among a people burdened with sin, thou hast not judged me according to my guilt, not hast thou abandoned me, because of the designs of my inclination. But thou hast saved my life from the pit. Thou hast brought thy servant deliverance. For thou, O God, hast sheltered me from the children of men, and hast hidden thy law within me. This is the gnosis of the Spirit, remember, within each of us. Against the time when thou shalt reveal, it's revealed when we move into the narrow channel, thy salvation to me, for thou hast not forsaken me in my soul's distress, and thou hast heard my cry in the bitterness of my soul. And when I groaned, thou didst consider my sorrowful complaint. Thou hast preserved the soul of the poor one in the den of lions, which sharpened their tongue like a sword. Thou hast made their tongues go back, like a sword in its scabbard, lest the soul of thy servant be blotted out. Hymn 14. I thank thee, blessed art thou, O Lord, for thou hast not abandoned the fatherless, or despised the poor. For thy might is boundless, and thy glory beyond measure. And the wonderful heroes minister to thee. Yet thou hast done marvels among the humble, in the mire, underfoot, and among those eager for righteousness, causing all the well-loved poor to rise up together from the trampling. Concerning the mystery of thou that hast hidden in me, and hidden in all of us, and to show thy greatness through me. And because of their guilt, thou hast hidden the fountain of understanding and the counsel of truth. For thou, O God, didst widen my heart, but they straiten it with affliction, and hedge me about with darkness. I eat the bread of wailing. Excuse me, just missed that line there. The bread of wailing, it shall cover the whole earth with its shadow, and its crown shall reach to the clouds. Its root shall go down to the abyss, and all the river of Eden shall water its branches. I am as a sailor in a ship amid furious seas. This would be the world that you were in. Their waves and all their billows roar against me. There is no calm in the whirlwind, not in the material world. That I may restore my soul, no path that I may straighten my way. On the face of the waters, the deeps resound to my groaning, and my soul has journeyed to the gates of death. This is if we give ourselves to the material world and that which all exists within it, the meagre of the mind and our self-righteous virtue. But I shall be as one who enters a fortified city, and as one who seeks refuge behind a high wall. Until deliverance comes, I will lean on thy truth, O my God. For thou wilt set the foundation on rock, and the framework by the measuring cord of justice. And the tried stones thou wilt lay by the plumbing line of truth, to build a mighty wall which shall not sway, and no man entering there shall stagger. This is the narrow channel, this is the gnosis, the unveiling of the Spirit, what the Spirit knows to one's soul. For no enemy shall ever invade it, since indoors shall be doors of protection, through which no man shall pass, and its bars shall be firm, and no man shall break them. This is your conviction in your journey. No rabble shall enter in with their weapons of war, until all the arrows of the war of wickedness have come to an end. Hymn 15. Thou hast placed me, O my Lord, among the branches of the council of holiness. Thou hast established my mouth in thy covenant, and my tongue is like that of thy disciples. Whereas the spirit of disaster is without a reply, for the lying lips shall be dumb. For thou knowest the whole intent of a creature. Thou discernest every reply. Well, this is true because everything is within grace and Father. Father knows all inevitability and possibility in which, so it's not fateful, but the Father knows everything that is going to happen, but experiences it in reality for itself through our own actions, words and thoughts, which actually can take a diverse possibility and probability. But everything is within grace. So the paradox is, experiences everything through us, but everything is already in grace, so therefore it already knows itself. It's a quandary that our minds cannot understand. And thy teaching and truth, directing my steps into the paths of righteousness, that I may walk before thee in the land of the living, into paths of glory and infinite peace, which shall never end. For thou knowest the inclination of thy servant, that I have not relied upon the works of my hands, that I have not relied upon the works of my hands to raise up my heart. Not have I sought refuge in my own strength, or have no fleshly refuge. This is the ego, the mind, the self-righteous virtue of the being, the worshipping the technology and the science of man. This is where you don't take refuge. And thy servant has no righteous deeds, to deliver him from the pit of no forgiveness. But I lean to the abundance of thy forgiveness. But I lean on the abundance of thy mercies, and hope for the greatness of thy grace. That thou wilt bring salvation to flower, and the branch of growth, providing refuge in thy strength, and raising up my heart. For in thy righteousness thou hast appointed me for thy covenant, and I have clung to thy truth, and gone forward in thy ways. Thou hast made me a father of son's grace, for thou hast succored my soul, O my God, and hast lifted my horn on high, and I shall shine in the sevenfold light, in the counsel appointed by thee for thy glory. For thou art an everlasting heavenly light in me, and will establish my feet upon level ground forever. Hymn 16. I thank thee, O Lord, for thou hast enlightened me through thy truth, in thy marvellous mysteries, in the greatness of thy mercy to a perverse heart. Who is like thee among the gods, O Lord, and who is according to thy truth? For thou art an eternal God. All thy ways are determined forever and ever, and there is none other beside thee. And what is man of naught and vanity, that he should understand thy marvellous mighty deeds? For I have closed my ears to thy teaching, until without knowledge hast thou cut out of me the glory. No more for me a stumbling block of iniquity. For thou dost reveal thy salvation, gnosis, remember. And thy righteousness is made firm forever. For man is not the master of his way, for thou hast done all this for thy glory. This returning of the soul to the Spirit is the glory of the Father. Hymn 18. But thou, O my God, hast put into my mouth, as it were, rain for all those who thirst. This is the preaching. And a fount of living waters which shall not fail. When they are opened, they shall not run dry. They shall be a torrent overflowing its banks. And like the bottomless seas, they shall suddenly gush forth, which were hidden in secret. This is the word gushing forth, either from within the soul and also from the mouth. And shall be like the waters of the flood, to every tree, both the green and the barren. For every beast and board they shall be an abyss. The tree shall sink like lead in mighty waters. Fire shall burn among them, and they shall be dried up. But the fruitful plant, by the everlasting spring, shall be an Eden of glory, bearing fruits of life. By my hand thou hast opened them, a well spring and ditches, and all their channels may be laid out, according to a certain measuring cord, and the planting of their trees according to the plumb line of the sun, that their boughs may become a beautiful branch of glory, for it is thou who hast founded my spirit. And thou knowest my intent, in my distress thou hast comforted me. I delight in forgiveness. And am consoled for the former transgression, for I know there is hope in thy grace, and expectation in thy great power. For no man can be just in thy judgment, or righteousness in thy trail. Through no man be more just than another, one person more wise than another, one more mortal, more glorious. Then another creature of clay, yet there is no power to compare with thy might. There is no bound to thy glory, and to thy wisdom no measure. To thy truth is no, and all who forsake it thou wilt conceal the truth until its time. Well, nothing comes to thee until we're ready. Our spiritual gnosis only comes to us when we're ready, when we declare our readiness to grace in the silence. In righteousness until its appointed time. Thy rebuke shall become my joy and gladness, and my scourges shall turn into eternal healing and everlasting peace. The scorn of my enemies shall become a crown of glory, and my stumbling shall change to everlasting might. For in thy and my light shall shine in forth in thy glory. For as a light from out of darkness, thou wilt enlighten me. Thou wilt bring healing to my wound, and marvellous might in place of my stumbling, and everlasting space to my straitened soul. For thou art my refuge, my high mountain, my stout stock and my fortress. In thee I will shelter from all the designs of ungodliness. For thou wilt succour me with eternal deliverance. For thou hast known me from the time of my father, and hast chosen me from the womb. From the belly of my mother thou hast dealt kindly with me, and from the breast of her who conceived me. Have thy mercies been with me, thy grace was with me in the lap of her who reared me. And from my youth thou hast illuminated me with wisdom and thy judgment. He continues, thou hast upheld me with certain truth, thou hast delighted me with thy Holy Spirit, and hast opened my heart till this day. Thy just rebuke accompanies my faults, and thy safeguarding peace is with my steps. An infinite mercy accompanies thy judgments of me. Until I am old, thou wilt care for me. My father knew me not, my mother abandoned me to thee. For thou art my father to all the sons of thy truth, and as woman who tenderly loves her babe, so dost thou rejoice in them. And as a foster father bearing a child in his lap, so cares thou for all thy creatures. Hymn 21. I thank thee, my Lord, for thou hast dealt wondrously to dust, and mightily towards creatures of clay. I thank thee. What am I that thou shouldest teach me the counsel of thy truth, and give me understanding of thy marvellous works? That thou shouldest lay hymns of thanksgiving within my mouth, and praise upon my tongue, and that of my circumcised lips thou shouldest make a seat of rejoicing. I will sing thy mercies, and on thy might I will meditate all day long. I will bless thy name evermore. I will declare thy glory in the midst of the sons of men, and my soul shall delight in thy goodness. I know that my word is truth, and that righteousness is in thy hand, that all knowledge is in thy purpose, and that all power is in thy might, and that every glory is thine, and in thy wrath all chastisements. Remember, I don't espouse to this 2,000-year-old wrath, or maybe longer, a statement of wrath from the Father, which there isn't. But in thy goodness is much forgiveness, and thy mercy is towards the sons of thy mysteries. Hymn 23. And the final hymn. Before thee no man is just, that he may understand all thy mysteries, or give answer to thy rebuke. But the children of thy grace shall delight in thy correction, and watch for thy goodness. For in thy mercies thou wilt show themselves to them, and they shall know thee. So this is what they're saying. The mercies is your journey, your soul's journey. And it will show itself when you move into the Spirit, towards the Spirit, the light, the narrow channel. At the time of thy glory thou shalt rejoice. Thou hast caused them to draw near, in accordance with their knowledge, and hast admitted them in accordance with their understanding. And in their divisions they shall serve thee, or transgressing thy word. I hold my peace, for more shall I say than this. I have spoken in accordance with my knowledge, out of the righteousness given to a creature of clay. And how shall I speak unless thou open my mouth? How understand unless thou teach me? How shall my foot stay on the path? unless thou give it strength. And how shall I rise? I know it for myself that thou hast done these things, O God, for what is flesh? Thou shouldest act marvellously towards it. It is thy purpose to do mightily, and to establish all things for the glory. Thou hast created the host of knowledge. To declare thy mighty deeds to flesh, and write precepts to him that is born of woman. Thou hast caused the perverse heart to enter into the covenant of thee, and hast uncovered the heart of dust, that it may be preserved from evil, and saved from the snares of judgment, in accordance with thy mercies. Who is found clean in thy judgment, and what is man before thee? Thou bringest him judgment, and he returns to his dust. My God, thou hast opened my heart to thy understanding, and hast unstopped my ears to lean on thy goodness. My heart murmurs, and my heart melts like wax, because of iniquity and sin. Blessed art thou, my God of knowledge, who hast established, and thou hast met thy servant for thy sake. For I know thy loving kindness, and in thy mercies I hope in all my existence, and I bless thy name always. So I hope you get something out of all of those hymns and poems, because there were some very good extracts there. But in short, what is it telling us? Well, it's basically asking us to move into spirit, to unveil the gnosis and knowledge that the spirit holds. The spirit is the narrow channel that we're looking towards when you turn your back on the broad, wandering middle, and the narrow channel of the left that also has a narrow channel to much, much darkness. But we're moving towards the right of the light, the spirit which calls us. This is the silent voice. And this is what all of these hymns are ultimately saying. The salvation is always within that. And it's the becoming within you. The word is within you, and you have to become the word. Unveil it from within yourself. And the spirituality is transformative spirituality. It's not temporal. It's not temporary. It's not something we do when we want something or we feel guilty about something. So remember to practice it as a part of oneself. And my book, All That We Are, is available on Amazon. It's at cost. I don't make any money or any profit from this whatsoever. I wrote it for myself, an expungement for myself, but also it's available to all others as a foundation. I'm hoping to write other books in the future for not just for myself, but for for the world, I suppose. But yeah, it's very nominal in price. You get it on the ebook or paperback, so feel free to have a look at that. It is sold to you at the cost Amazon can create it. So there is no profit in there for me whatsoever, because I don't do these things for profit. And I want to say thank you guys for listening to this. I do appreciate it. Your presence is important to me, and I know you take time in these long videos of 48 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes less, but your time is important, and I do appreciate. Please like and subscribe, and share this to others, because it does matter if you like and subscribe these, because it helps it spread my videos to others who might find them useful. I do appreciate that from you guys, and comments that you might make on the usefulness of what you're hearing. Do you agree, disagree? What would you like to see? It's useful to me to make sure this channel is bringing spiritual alignment to you guys, because that's ultimately what I'm trying to do here. So I want to say thank you again for listening to this, and I want to say God bless for the rest of your weekend, or whatever you're doing when you're listening to this. Thank you so much, and take care. Until next time.